Welcome back to another exciting conversation here on Effective Living. It is with great joy that I share with you this morning that you and I have been given life and life more abundantly. And with that said, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to make a commitment to say, you know what? I'm going to get all the help that I need to get to where I'm trying to go. I'm Coach Ricardo Miller and I like what I do. Okay? So now here's the deal. The lady I'm joined with today, she loves what she does as well. She's great at what she does. And here's the deal. She's assigned to help all of us today by giving us practical understanding as to what she's been doing for a long time that you and I can tap into to get us to where we're trying to go. I live with the belief that someone is assigned to help you. Miss Evelyn Shaffer, welcome to Effective Living.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here this morning.
Listen, we're excited about this journey, this whole journey of living life effectively. But I know the struggle is real and that there are issues that brings people to their knees sometimes, cause them can't do what others do easily. I want to talk about that, but before we dive into it, tell our viewing audience a little bit about Evelyn Schaefer. Who is Evelyn Schaefer?
Okay, let me see. Evelyn Shaffer. I'm a wife. I am a mother of two adult sons, one
Yeah,
biological, one bonus. I have
yeah,
four grandkids, two great grandkids, and I am retired from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, where I worked for 25 plus years as an administrator. And it was a high risk job. So I was blessed to retire early. So I thank the Lord for that. So that's about it for me. And I just love living life and love helping people.
good stuff, good stuff. And you've been doing that for a while. Thank you so much for believing in me. Thank you for believing in the Effective Living platform. But in addition, thank you for believing in people. Let's talk about that. You've been helping people over the years with this program, Overcomers. What is that program about? I want us to dive into it because I know sometimes, Miss Evelyn, there are people we say just get over it, and sometimes it's not that easy for some people. It's because we are made differently, and
Mhm.
what is a struggle to me may not be a struggle to you, and I may need extra help to get to where I'm trying to go. So tell us a little bit about Overcomers and how you got involved in the program.
Okay, the way I got involved in Overcomers when I was working for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, we had programming for the women and men coming out of prison, and Overcomers was one of those programs. It was recovery support program, and what we tried to do with that is to get the men and women back on the right track, even though they were had been to prison. But I particularly started working with women, even though they had been into prison. They are still considered, just great people, that made bad choices. And one of the things we just tried to redirect their life on the right path. And so during that process, at first I would say, oh, I was beginning to hate my job. But the Lord changed that around and made my job become my ministry. So I started working with this program and especially with the women. And we were just teaching them some things about how to get back on, back into the mainstream of life. And Overcomers was one of the way. Overcomers is a biblical based program. And what we did is teach the ladies and the men as well how to just get their life back on track by going through this process and get through this process. And that was one of the main things. It became a passion for me because and the more I went through the overcomers process, the Lord just started showing me things. I didn't think I had any problems, but I looked around, I did. I had some problems, I had some unforgiving. I was a codependent because I found out that my passion became real to me because I had addiction in my family and
Mhm.
my son especially, and I became a codependent. That's how my passion stopped. That was one of the second phase of my passion. So the Lord was setting me up to let me know that this kind of things was going to need, I was going to need this kind of program in order to help myself and other people. So I became an advocate for people with addictions, but not only just for substance abuse addiction. There are people who, when you look at overcomers, what we try to do is get to the root cause of the problem, because for every people just don't go out and start doing the things or just wake up angry. There's a reason why we do what we do. So
Yeah.
people don't just go to sleep and wake up angry. They have problems, and beneath the substance abuse and all the other conditions like overeating, things of that nature, happens because a person try to medicate the pain that they have. So food satisfies some people, drugs satisfy some people. All they want to do is get rid of the hurt. And so that's what we try to do through the spirit, biblical way, introducing Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is the foundation of our program. And what we do is guide them through a process that would lead them to some type of sanity as well as sobriety. But we do anything that's life changing. Overcomers deal with anything that's life changing or controls your life. And there are a lot of things that control people's lives these days. So basically, that's my background as far as trying to help people. And plus, I had the authority to issue warrants on people that violated their parole, or even to withdraw the warrants. But what I decided to do, I was becoming an advocate for, as I became an advocate for the people that had substance abuse problems, what I started doing was making sure that the people got the appropriate help they needed instead of locking them up. But I don't know what's going on now, because they still locking people up for things like mental illness and things of that nature. And I'm a believer that if a person could get to the root cause of their problem, or stop their anger, or things of that nature, because our prison, our drug treatment facilities, which we don't have very many, wouldn't be full, and we wouldn't have a waiting list. Now, we don't have no waiting list for prison. People can just go to prison for committing whatever. And I don't think a person should be locked up because they have a disease. So that became my passion, number one, to help somebody else.
You
And
said a disease. I've never heard the term used like that, and clearly it's because you've been in this space and studied in the space. A lot of people don't see it as a disease. Some people say, this knucklehead boy, he just can't stop drinking. He gonna drink himself to death. Why in the world is she eating the way she's eating? Why is it that she's spending the way she's spending? I just hate her. I hate him. I hate them. Whatever it is, some people are just so cruel and so mean and so angry at some of the behaviors that they see happen, or is happening to someone they love, but they just think it's a behavior. You mentioned the term disease just now. Talk to us about that.
Okay, alcoholism and substance abuse is a disease, and it's going to be a lifelong disease, because you're going to always be in some kind of recovery, because you can relapse and go right back to that past if you don't do anything about it, if you don't have any intervention. So a lot of the women and men, when they go to prison and come out, they don't have intervention for anything. And you have some people that still you have women was going to prison because they may have killed somebody or hurt somebody. And that's grief. They still grieving behind that. Yeah. But most people who use alcohol and drugs, that's just a condition. But there's an underlying symptom that, that's just a condition, but there's an underlying reason, a cause for why we do what we do. And it's the disease because that's exactly what it is. It has been said that it's a disease, and it's nothing you could really do about it, but continue to recover and make it can be managed. It has to be managed. So a person has to be in recovery for the rest of their life once they become addicted to a substance.
So go ahead.
Okay, but other type of addictions, we have two types of addiction. You have emotional addictions, which will include like your grief, your abandonment issues, your resentment issues, things of that nature. And then you have substance abuse. That's another form of addiction. The substance abuse, what I just talked about, the drugs and the alcohol. But there could be an anger problem that causes you to use drugs, or there could be a grief problem that may have caused you to use drugs. Using, just like I said, using the drugs, overeating, things of that nature has nothing to do with the root cause of the problem. There, just like I said earlier, there's a reason why people do what they do.
I have been teaching lately in my exclusive group coaching for those of you guys that are watching. I've been talking about unearthing, dealing with the deeper factors, because a lot of times, as you just mentioned, a lot of people are talking from the surface. A lot of parents talk to the surface. Do you agree? A lot of leaders and bosses, they're dealing with surface. And you just mentioned grief. It could be triggered by something that occurred way back. Sorrow, these pain, these hidden truths that you just never know what could have stirred something up that caused a person to go back to where they were.
Okay, and then another thing, a lot of people could benefit from a program like Overcomers, because if you ever been hurt or you have hurt somebody, you need to be in Overcomers to find out why you're doing that.
Yes.
So, we try to uncover those things.
Yes, this is so good. This is so good. We're going to have to do another part of this conversation because this is so good. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm joined with Evelyn Shaffer, and we're talking about the struggle is real, getting help with addiction. And she specializes in this. This is an area of expertise, an area she's given her life to. This is a calling of hers. And as she just mentioned, a lot of people actually have real struggles, but they're not willing to address those struggles. I want to go on to our next question that focuses on why do you think people are so inclined to not want to talk about the struggle? Lately, I found that there is such liberation in releasing it, but talk to us about why people don't want to talk about the struggle.
Okay, one of the reason why a lot of people don't want to talk about the struggle, because they're in denial. They may not even know that some say there's nothing wrong with me, I don't have a problem, but they're in denial. And then you have others who suffer from what we call the shame and the guilt for what they have done. But the guilt is real. It's a real struggle because they can't forgive themselves either. But those are some of the reasons why people are in denial. Struggle with not talking about it because they just so ashamed. They feel guilty about what they have done because of the struggles, or they may have hurt somebody. I know, like for myself, I felt ashamed for a long time because I'm in the system working for the criminal justice system. And then I had a son who used drugs. Thank God he's in recovery, but thank God he didn't go to prison or anything like that, but he could have,
Right. Yeah.
So that's one of the things, and I became a codependent, but I was ashamed for a long time to even talk about it. So when I started doing this Overcomers program, God just started showing me things, about myself. I had no idea. I said, "Oh, shame. Yeah, I was ashamed. Look at me. I'm, got 3 degrees, and then I got a son, 3 degrees. I'm working for the criminal justice system. Then I got a son using drugs." That was the shame part of it.
Right. Yeah.
So when I started teaching the ladies and they started telling me their stories and things of that nature, I wasn't no different from them.
Correct.
We women, we got husbands, we marry and things of that nature. We have children. But the only thing that separated me from the ladies coming out of prison, was that I had never been to prison or committed any crimes, but I had been through domestic violence, the codependency thing with my son, just all kinds of commonalities with those women that went to prison. And it was a struggle for me to even just talk about, so I could put myself into this picture.
Yeah, you're highlighting something that is so necessary. When I tell people, and they think it's such a cliche when I say, creating a life you don't need a vacation from, but here's the deal. Like you just mentioned, if a person is struggling with shame, if a person is struggling with guilt, if someone is struggling with denial, it'll hinder you from getting your best life.
Yes, it would stop you from doing whatever, it can paralyze you. This kind of stuff can paralyze you from becoming the person you want to become, because you lose jobs and family and all that. Even a person who overeat, just think what you're doing to your body. Think what you're doing to your think about what you're doing to your maybe a spouse or somebody, because somebody gonna have to take care of you once you become overweight. You
Yeah.
know, you probably have seen that show 600 Pound, My 600
Yeah.
Pound
Yeah.
Life, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But those people have some kind of underlying problem. You
Okay.
know why? I remember having my administrative assistant. She had a problem with depression,
Wow.
resentment,
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Yeah.
And the doctor told her, if you don't stop eating, you're gonna if you don't stop eating, you'll be dead in about 7 years. And guess what? She was dead in about 7 years because
Wow.
of overeating. She didn't want to do nothing about it. Number one, she was addicted to smoking, so she couldn't have the surgery for the bypass because she had to stop smoking for 6 months in order to do that. But she couldn't do it. She suffered with depression and things of that nature. And then I think she may have started but I have seen her overeat. I have seen her with no big things of sodas and different things like that, just overeat. And
Yeah.
it's kind of bad when a person suffering like that. They're in pain. And
Yeah.
that's why they cover it up with eating or cover it up with a medication and things of that nature.
This is so good. This is so good. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching me for the very first time, please put on that notification bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share this talk with somebody. Everybody knows somebody who's struggling. The struggle is real. The thing about it is, a lot of it is not talked about. A lot of it is not surfaced, so you can't see it. And so someone can walk in the room and look like they got it going on. And you wonder why they snapped at you. And you wonder why there's so much anger in the world, or such depressed office spaces. I mean, you know, Miss Evelyn, I'm telling you, I like my life because I'm starting to dig deep within those hidden crevices that I've never looked at before. And it feels liberating. It feels incredible. But with your many years of experience in the space that you've been in, what are some of the struggles you think needs to be talked about a little bit more? I know there's stuff that people think, like you mentioned earlier, oh, I'm good, but hey, talk about it. Go there. What are some?
Okay, some of the things that people struggle with, you know, that's a tough question because just like I said, there's so many things that we all struggle with. We struggle with fear, we struggle with anger, we struggle with overeating, rejection, resentment, and unforgiveness is a big one.
Wow.
Unforgiveness is a big one. So people need to really uh, look at, you know, start thinking about it, but, you know, pray about it and ask the Lord. The Lord will tell you who you need to forgive. I tell you, he told me who I needed to forgive. I mean, unforgiveness was eating me up, you know, because I was molested as a child, and I didn't forget. It took me, even though my mom believed me, but back then in my time, you know, nobody was talking about counseling or anything of that nature. So just through the help from my mom and everybody else, I just went through the process, but I suppressed all that. And when I became an adult and started going to counseling, that's when I figured out that there was something going on with me, but I never got to the root cause. When I got to Overcomers and start going through the process and the scriptures that we use and the Lord giving me different things and about myself, man, Overcomers will make you uncover, take that mask off, and you'll really start seeing yourself. And that's when one night we were sitting in Overcomers, we were just talking and having a conversation, and the Holy Spirit just spoke. Seemed like the Holy Spirit spoke to me. Unforgiveness is your problem. And the reason, and then once I start talking about it, when you start talking about your problems, you take away the power from the devil. The more you start talking about it. Even though unforgiveness is a process, it takes some time, a while to go through it. But what you don't take care in childhood, it's gonna come out in adulthood.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
If you don't take care of it.
So listen, we got to go into this because you met a good guy, you met a good girl, and today she's good, but she got some underlying hidden factors. She got some underlying hidden factors, and the truth be told, triggers are real, right? Let's talk about that for a moment. You know, she was good for a while, something triggered her. He was good for a while, something triggered her. How important is it for us to look into that whole element of triggers?
Well, you have to, a lot of people, different things trigger people.
Yeah,
You could go back to a place, you can start thinking about certain things that'll trigger you. But when you think about triggering, most people call it, they go into a relapse stage, they go through a cycle. You
yeah,
start thinking about something triggered you, you start thinking about it. And then the
yeah,
next thing you know, you start just really focusing on that thing. And then the
yeah,
next thing you know, you're acting out that behavior,
yeah,
like going back to overeating. But
yeah,
there's a lot of things in life that trigger people. People do, and we call it relapse. Once they trigger, we call it relapse. And
right,
it can happen to anybody,
right,
relapse can.
yeah,
So there are a lot of things, people, places, things could trigger you, and that's
yeah,
real. But the whole thing is, I don't care where you go, what you do, if you don't take care of the issues or the underlying problem, you can go back to those conditions, those things that you would normally do.
let's dive into something for a minute because I remember saying this. I said this to my son. I've said this to my wife. I've said this lately a lot, and I've said it with confidence. And you're helping me with this because you said people, places, things, and so many other things can trigger. But I tell people I can't do certain neighborhoods. I can't do certain clubs. I can't do certain energy in the room. I'm from a very dark place, from a street perspective, from a
Mhm,
gang perspective, from a being in the hood. I know how to survive in the hood. I know
mhm,
how to survive in the streets. And so for me not to have hoodish mentality, streets mentality, thuggish mentality, I tell myself, I don't want to be around that energy because I can trigger. I walk in a barber shop and the energy in there doesn't speak to me. And I'm like, nah, this is taking me where I don't want to go. And that's real.
mhm. And because association bring on assimilation.
Yeah.
You probably heard back in the day, like your parents say, you lay down with dogs, you're gonna come up with fleas. You mess with fire, you're gonna get burned. Things like that. So it's real. Those kind of things can trigger you or cause you. Trigger is the effect, the thing that causes you to go back to doing, to do what you do, go back doing
Yeah.
what you were doing, and
Wow.
then from triggering, once that's triggered, you can relapse. So
Wow.
people, sometimes it's going to be people you're going to have to cut out your life in order to
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah.
There's going to be things that that you used to do that you can't do no more, just like you mentioned, clubbing and things of that nature. That you just can't be around everything,
Yeah.
or do everything. And once you get up into overcomers, the Lord will show you who you don't need to be around. You can pray about it. He'll
Yeah.
show you your heart, and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about cutting the people that you are around because you're not doing the same thing they're doing. And
But
He will take them out of your life. He'll cut them for you. You don't even
yes.
have to cut them. He'll cut them for you if you're really sincere about doing. Really sincere about getting better.
So good, so good,
Mhm.
ladies and gentlemen. Listen, today we're joined with Miss Evelyn Shaffer. We're diving into the struggle is real, and I know anybody and everybody that's watching this, you've dealt with some form of addiction, you've dealt with some form of unforgiveness, some form of denial, some form of hurt, some form of pain, and the truth is, as she mentioned, there sometimes we're wondering why we are where we are, but we don't address the real core stuff.
That's right.
Miss Evelyn, a few years ago, it could have been 5, 6 years ago, I sat down in a therapist chair for the first time. And I can remember I asked the lady, so is it true what I say here stays here?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, can I say anything? I'm like, can I just be candid? She's like, put it all on there. And then the second thing was, I thought, well, I went on the complete opposite side of town. This is not somebody I'm going to run into again. And I thought I went on the complete opposite side of town.
Mhm.
And in addition, I was like, this is what she's paid to do. In other words, she swore to confidentiality. I will talk about that later. In other words, she shared this with me. It stays with her, right? And I remember sitting down in that chair and I said, I never liked this. I never liked that. She was like, that's okay. Why did you think you don't like that? And she just kept probing. And let me tell you something. I did about 6 months to a year with her. And when I tell you, I found myself like I had never found myself before. Because I just opened myself up and I says, I don't want to live hidden with elements of skeleton in my closets and elephant in the room and failing to address this, but I know it's there kind of deal. I want my best life. And that was the moment that effective living started to birth as a thing. And so I want to talk to you about this. You know, addiction is such a big issue. Why is it that so many people are in denial about it? Why is denial so high?
Well, they're denial about it because denial is a part of their defense mechanism. It's
So,
part of their defense mechanism. And if you're addicted, denial is just if a person is addicted to drugs, say they're addicted to drugs, is just part of that. It's just part of the disease.
okay.
Denial is it's just part of the disease.
Wow.
And it could be experienced by anyone with anything. It does not matter, you know, whether you overeat, whether you are fearful, whether you have anxiety or anything of that nature, because a lot of reasons, a lot of people suffer from anxiety, they suffer from depression, all kind of things. And we have there's a such thing called dual diagnosis, where a person could be have a mental illness plus they are substance abusers. And they call it dual diagnosis. So that's a hard thing. Those are hard type of people that are hard to work with. You know, when they and one thing, overcomers is not treatment, but we will make referrals if somebody needs additional help. All we are is a recovery. You make up your mind and you go into recovery. You stop doing this, you stop doing that. And in order to maintain your recovery, you go to programs like Overcomers, AANA. But the only thing is Overcomers is a somebody calling me on my phone. I forgot to turn it off. I'm sorry. But Overcomers is a safe place where you can come and talk about those kind of things.
Yep. Let's talk about that. So you said that there's two parts there to play on that. We're talking mental and we're talking practical. There's a head challenge and then there's a behavior challenge. Talk about that there are some dynamics and difference. In other words, some people they have a bad habit, but then there are also people who have a mental issue. There's two different type of governing going on there. What's your view on the two difference? And a lot of people sometimes don't know. We just, if you're in church, you just call it stronghold.
It is a stronghold because we do talk about that in Overcomers, pulling down those strongholds by being biblical. Overcomers being a biblical program. We do talk about the strongholds, but you're right. And people just don't. I don't know. You probably heard people say statements like, I don't have a problem with this, I can handle this, things of that nature. But when you have a person who have mental problems, they can't do it on their own. You know, they need help. But in order to hide some of the pain of the mental issues they may have, like depression, I can see why people can easily turn to substance abuse to hide the pain of depression. Because I used to suffer from depression. And sometimes I do fall back into that dark place. Because I don't know. I have what they call clinical depression. And it's something where I can fall back into that dark place. But through the help of Overcomers and continue doing what I do and the help of the Lord, I usually come out pretty, I learn to manage my depression. And
so when I teach, I didn't know it was connected to a lot of what you do, but I've been teaching that effective living is all management. Most of all of our challenges is actually at the very core is management, would you say?
Yes, it is. It is. And a lot of things, and when we talked about the now, one of the things about the now, anxiety, fear, insecurity, all those things can provoke the now. And that's why we have to look, why are we having these anxiety attacks? Why are we so fearful?
Yep.
I dealt with a whole bunch of stuff,
Yep.
so that's why, from a personal point of view, that's why I know that life can be managed.
Okay. Yes.
Life
Come
can
on.
be managed.
Life.
So, um, and so that's what recovery and overcomers is all about. It just trying to manage your life and allowing the Lord to return you to sanity and sobriety.
I like what you said. Life can be managed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this for the very first time, write that in the comment section. You need to own that. My life can be managed. Write that down. My life can, even though it may not feel like it's being managed well right now, you can get better at managing your life. Minister Evelyn, a few years ago, I remember going through a moment, and this was the first time, and it was the only time I had a moment. I ended up in the emergency room, and I felt like, what's going on? And the doctor said, they did the check, they checked me out, only to discover that nothing was wrong. Nothing was wrong. And I was like, what was that? And they said, probably you were having an anxiety attack. And so my son, who has with a couple of anxiety attack moments, he said, Dad, how does it feel? I said, what do you mean, how does it feel? He said, because over the years, you look at me like, just man up. Just man up, right? And so I've never been one, I've not had too much issues in my head. I've not dealt strongly with depression. I've not dealt strongly with any form of anxiety. I've figured out how to manage myself. I'm very protective of my mind and my heart. And I think if it's any gift that I have, I can't sing, I can't read well, I can't spell well. I'm not the best in a lot of things. You know what I'm really good at? Protecting my mind, and protecting my heart. Some really crazy things has happened to me in this life, but my heart has been guarded and my mind has been renewed. And that's strong, ladies and gentlemen. A mind renewed and a heart protected. That's what's kept me. Now, here's the deal. I'm not exempt. And that moment when that anxiety attack hit me, that gave me a feeling of knowing what my son had experienced before and what a lot of other people experience. And that's when I started studying depression. And I said, let me go where, even though I may not struggle with everything, I need to know as a coach, I need to know as a leader, I need to know as a husband, I need to know as a friend that these are real and I can't talk to people like these don't exist. I want to talk about that. We've not mentioned this before, but let's talk about support around us. So a lot of people, we talk down to people who are dealing with depression when depression is real. We talk down to people who are struggling with stop eating. You're like, you just need to stop eating. When it's not that easy. Talk to the people who are judging. Just for a moment, just talk to them about stop being so judgmental. What would you say to the judges out there who have no clue of the struggle that is happening in a person's life?
Well, one of the things, we can't be judgmental. We have to be, you can have the conversation with the individual who's struggling through some life, who's going through some life struggles, but there's a way, you can have the conversation, but just be careful with the words that you use. Start, if a person, just don't take yes or no answers, probing questions, start asking them about different things. So it just being patient with the individual, but just don't put them down, and if you got to beat up a person because they're doing something that you don't like or something that you don't think they should be doing, don't beat them up with a brick. Use a feather, something soft. Use a feather to beat them up.
I like that. I like that. Let's talk about, please do me a favor, you've known this program for a while. Talk to people who should join, like people who really, being a part of a program like Overcomers. I'm thinking here, I'm sitting here today and I'm realizing a lot of people need to embrace a program like Overcomers, but a lot of people don't know. And so being a part of the program, talk to somebody, why should someone commit to a program like this?
Okay, Overcomers is a biblical balance type approach to bring a person back to sanity and sobriety, like I said. And the healing, and what we focus on is healing the hurts, getting to the root cause of the problem. And anybody that hit any kind of problem, it does not matter what the problem is. Just like I said, if you've been hurt or someone has hurt you, You need to be in overcomers to find out why you hurt that person. Or maybe there's a reason why if somebody hurt you and you can't get over it, you need to forgive them.
Yeah.
So overcomers will help bring out those kind of things. We try to bring out those kind of things. So a person with any kind of life controlling problem is really should come to overcomers. And number one, we have to look at overcomers is a very safe place where you can talk about your issues. There is confidential. Confidentiality is another thing. We don't go around telling people business. I always say, talk about my business, and I hear out in the church or anywhere, I'm gonna beat you up. I used to always say that, but I never heard anything, and we don't go out talking about what we have heard. So it's a safe place as well as a place for confidentiality. Confidentiality is very, very serious when it comes to programs like Overcomers, or just like you said, you went to a therapist. It's very confidential.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking with Evelyn Shaffer, and we're diving into the fact that the struggle is real, and a lot of people are wondering why they're stuck. And they're watching Ricardo Miller talk about creating a life you don't need a vacation from, and you think it's just a slogan, when the truth is, if you do the unearthing, if you do the deep work, you'll be amazed how free you'll be when you go back to that next family reunion. You'll be amazed how free you'll be in starting that next relationship, or getting on the new job, or joining a new church. As Minister Evelyn just mentioned, so many people have been carrying hurt and or been hurting people, and they're not free because they're not doing the work. Okay, I want to encourage you. Get the help necessary. Minister Evelyn, I want you to challenge our viewing audience. There are a lot of people who are watching us today who need help with addiction, who have certain forms of struggle, and they know it's a struggle. They know it's an issue, and they've been in denial for a while. And right where they are, they need help. But tell them, challenge them. What would you say to that person?
Okay, one of the things that I would say is that it is our secrets that keep us sick. And I say that because my secrets had me sick. I was having heart palpitations and all of that, going to the doctor, couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. But it's the secrets that keep us sick. And one of the things about denial, you can cover it, you can deny it, you can cover it up, you can blame somebody else. But the bottom line is that you will not eliminate the consequences because of your struggles. You're going to have some consequences. If you start using alcohol to cover up some kind of pain, what you're going to become? An alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
If you try to hide your pain with drugs, you're going to become addicted to the drugs. Or if you overeat, you're going to gain weight, and it'll cause you to gain weight. And so we just need to focus on why we do what we do. And there's a reason why. And we have to dig and come up with the root cause of why.
Wow. Ladies, Jesus, this is so good. This is so good, y'all. I'm enjoying this to the fullest. Hey, here's why I'm enjoying this. I wish I knew this 25 years ago. I wish I knew this 30 years ago. I'm 47 years old. And the truth be told, I've been teaching my clients lately, someone is assigned to help you. Okay? A program like Overcomers is assigned to help you. But you got to commit to a program that you feel as though could help you, and you got to stick with it for the long haul, and then you got to do the work. You got to do the work. As we close out, talk to people about doing the work. I know you've heard people. I know, Coach. I know, Minister Evelyn. I know I need to come to Overcomers. Well, knowing ain't gonna do it. You got to show up, right?
Right. You have to be committed to the process, because it is a process, and you have to. The program work, but you got to work it.
Come on.
You got to work it. The program work. You got to work it. And you have to commit to the process. And one of the things about Overcomers, the first step is to step out of your hiding. You got to step out of your hiding. Come out of hiding. Tell the truth. Start dealing with whatever your issues are. And one of the things I always say, you can do it, but you can't do it by yourself.
Yes.
You need somebody, just like you said, somebody is assigned to help you. You can do it, but you can't do it by yourself. And just sitting in, listening at other people's stories, learning the scriptures and things of that nature, it'll help you to become a better person in the word, you know.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit is our manager, Jesus Christ is our manager, and through the Holy Spirit, we can manage anything. And those are kind of things that we talk about in Overcomers. It's not me teaching you, teaching anybody anything. I'm just a facilitator. I just keep the program and the conversation going. But actually hearing the stories of other people, it will help you tremendously. It has helped me a lot going through Overcomers and coming out of the hiding. First, you got to admit you got a problem. Number one, if you never admit it, you can't fix it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, today you heard her. She's on fire. Listen, man, she was loaded. She's just brought it. And listen, let the information sop in. As a matter of fact, listen to this again. Share it with someone. Programs like this is needed. Evelyn and her team, they're doing a phenomenal job with their Overcomers program. I had to have her come on. We're going to do this again. Minister Evelyn, can you tell our viewing audience when your group meets? And I think you guys do on Zoom at present. What we can do in the future for people who want to be a part of this, we probably can put it in the comment section. In the thread, so people can actually participate in your Overcomers. But how can people, especially those who desire to probably be a part of your particular Overcomer program, how can
we meet on Wednesday nights? I'm sorry, Wednesday nights. I met Monday night. Oh Lord, it's still Wednesday night. Forgive me, because we in person we used to meet on Monday and Wednesday nights, but we still meet on Wednesday nights at 6:00 p.m. and via Zoom. And there is a link, and they can contact Pathway of Life Church, Pastor Ricardo Miller for the link, and he'll give it to you. And but it's best. It's really good when it's in person. Because love is another thing. We love on people. We laugh, we cry together. So there's a lot of dynamics to the program. I may have not touched on everything, but there's a lot of dynamics to the program. And I just enjoyed being here talking about it this morning.
We'll be back. We'll have you back, most certainly. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from Evelyn Shaffer. We're going to bring her back to talk a little bit more about this because I enjoyed this to the fullest. And I know that on your journey to living life effectively, you got to go to those places you've never gone before. You got to do the work you've not done to get to where you're trying to go. Minister Evelyn, thank you for what you do in helping people. Thank you for being so committed over time to show up, and I love the fact that you threaded your life into the fact that, hey, listen, I've not been exempt. You say I've not been exempt from the struggles or the challenges, and you work yourself through, which I think speaks to the fact that you're more qualified to run a program like this just because you have the education, but you also have the experience. And so thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you all for listening at me.
Well, you'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. Don't forget to put what statement stood out to you the most. Put it in the comment section. Share this with your family and friends and let them know someone is assigned to help you. Have a great day, everyone.
All right.